My name is Kimberly Johnson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Tulsa City County Library. Each year, this distinguished event brings the best and the brightest literary voices to Tulsa, and tonight is no exception. Dame Hilary Mantel, we are honored to have you with us this evening. A night like tonight takes months of planning, lots of people planning the program. So I want to thank this year's gala chair, Carrie Cole, and her committee who have worked tirelessly to make this a very special event. The Tulsa City County Library is the beneficiary of this very special annual event that has a proud national and international legacy. The Distinguished Author Series really is a love letter to Tulsa County, to books and literature, and to this public library system. For that, we have the visionary behind the celebrated Distinguished Author Series to thank, and that is Mrs. Peggy Helmerich. We thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate your generosity, your devotion, and your passion to this library and to this community. We have a token of appreciation to you. If you would come forward, please.
Wow. Do you all realize how beautiful you look from up here tonight? And do you realize that you've stuck with us for 34 years? 34 years. I am tremendously grateful, but I know that you have enjoyed almost every moment. And tonight, you are going to be thrilled because of our wonderful, knighted Dame Hilary Mantel. Thank you, Hilary.
Thank you, Peggy. So tonight we also invite you to take a signed copy of Dame Hilary's collection of short stories, The Assassination of Margaret Thatcher, that you'll find at your table. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Adrian Alexander to the podium. He is the chair of the Author Selection Committee, and he will introduce this year's award winner. Adrian?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's my great honor to serve again this year as the chair of the Author Selection Committee for the Peggy V. Helmerich Distinguished Author Award from the Tulsa Library Trust. And it's a singular pleasure for me tonight to introduce to you this year's award winner, Dame Hilary Mantel. This is a name I have been repeating a lot in the last couple of months or so in various venues, and doing it gives me a thrill each time. And it's not just because our honoree was made a Dame Commander of the British Empire in 2006 by her sovereign, Queen Elizabeth II of that name. That's quite an impressive in its own right, of course, but here's what really excites me. The highly prestigious Man Booker Prize has been described by one recipient as the ultimate literary prize to win in the English-speaking world. The Peggy V. Helmerich Distinguished Author Award, which is a pretty prestigious prize as well, has gone to 4 previous Booker Prize winners in its 34-year history: Margaret Atwood, Thomas Keneally, Ian McEwan, and Kazuo Ishiguro. In the 50-year history of the Booker Prize, there have been only 4 instances when the prize has gone to the same author twice. And one of those 4 authors is here tonight because Hilary Mantel's last 2 books, Wolf Hall in 2009 and Bring Up the Bodies in 2012, each won that important prize. And what's more, Hilary Mantel is the only female author in that elite group of 2-time Booker Prize winners. Congratulations indeed, Dame Hilary Mantel. And if you were paying close attention just now, you will have noticed the fact that she became Dame Hilary in 2006, 3 years prior to the publication of her best-known novel, Wolf Hall. That means she already had created a significant and well-received body of work prior to her first Booker Prize. Mantel published her first novel, Every Day is Mother's Day, in 1985, followed quickly by its sequel, Vacant Possession, the following year. The settings of her novels range from the contemporary England of the past half century or so to South Africa and Saudi Arabia, to 18th century revolutionary France, and to her most famous setting of all, the 16th century England of Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn, and Thomas Cromwell. In all 11 of her novels, which is where I have focused my reading of Mantel's body of work, there are wonders to delight the senses of every serious reader of good fiction. She gives voice to a wide variety of characters in her books, and the voices are always interesting and always intriguing in one way or another. Indeed, her ability to write intelligent, witty, authentic dialogue is one of her greatest strengths, I think. Writing about Wolf Hall in The Guardian, Christopher Taylor says that the book succeeds on its own terms and then some, both as a non-frothy historical novel and as a display of Mantel's extraordinary talent. Lyrically yet cleanly and tightly written, solidly imagined yet filled with spooky resonances and very funny at times. It's not like much else in contemporary British fiction. John Wood, book critic for The New Yorker, writes, "One of the reasons for this literary success is that Mantel seems to have written a very good modern novel, then changed all her fictional names to English historical figures of the 1520s and 30s. She knows that what gives fiction its vitality is not the accurate detail," he continues, "but the animate one." He goes on to suggest that the reader might compare a page or two of Wolf Hall with worthy historical fiction by contemporary writers such as Peter Ackroyd or Susan Sontag. They are intelligent, he writes, but not novelistically intelligent. They copy the motions, but rarely inhabit the movement with vitality. Mantel knows what to select, how to make her scenes vivid, how to kindle her characters. She instinctively grabs for the reachably real. In other words, he concludes, this novelist has the maddeningly unteachable gift of being interesting. And her earlier work comes in for similar praise. Another Booker Prize winner and Helmerich Prize winner, Margaret Atwood, reviewed An Experiment in Love for the New York Times in 1996 and mourned that the fact that this was only the second Mantel novel to be published in the U.S. at that point. Atwood describes the book as a haunting and brilliant work full of sharpness, clear-eyed wit, full of similes and metaphors that glint brightly. English writer and critic Fay Weldon reviewed the 2006 novel Beyond Black for The Guardian and wrote, "Mantel has done something extraordinary. She has taken that ethereal halfway house between heaven and hell, between the living and the dead, and nailed it on the page. She has taken those moments between sleep and waking when we hardly know who we are or why, and turned them into a novel that makes the unbelievable believable. She's witty, ironic, intelligent, and I suspect, haunted," Weldon concludes. "This is a book out of the unconscious where the best novels come from." And I think that last observation of Fay Weldon's is a great summation of all of Hilary Mantel's wonderful novels. Her work is truly and consistently remarkable. And on that note, it gives me great pleasure now, on behalf of the entire Author Selection Committee and the Tulsa Library Trust, to present to you the 2018 recipient of the Peggy V. Helmerich Distinguished Author Award, Dame Hilary Mantel.
Well, here it is. And I'm a very proud woman at this moment. Adrian, thank you for your kind remarks. And thank you to all for the great welcome you've given to my husband and myself. I don't think I've ever been in a city for 48 hours. Oh, I beg your pardon. This is what air travel does to you. It's 24 hours, and yet felt so much at home and so much part of the scene. It really is a tribute to your gift for hospitality. Some 4 years back, after both my recent historical novels had been published, I went through a strange phase where I left behind my life as a hermit And I became part of a team, or two teams really, because two unprecedented things were happening at once. My novels, Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies, were being made into a TV series using a variety of locations, ancient houses and gardens, mainly in the southwest of England. And at the same time, in a completely separate endeavour, the novels were being adapted into stage plays. Now, I had always wanted to work in the theatre, and I took my chance to collaborate with the adapter for many months before the plays were cast. And they were staged by the Royal Shakespeare Company. So they began life in Stratford-on-Avon, and then they moved to London's West End, to a very different kind of space, before their New York run, which presented a whole new set of challenges. Now, as the process went on, I became more and more involved. And when the adapter went back to his own work, I stayed around, helping to make the changes that were needed as we shortened and tightened the product and devised different stagings for the different theatres. And at the same time, I was writing my third Thomas Cromwell novel. But mostly, I was out and about in the rehearsal room or actually watching the show night by night. And in the evenings, when I got home from the theatre, the rushes would have come in from the TV series. So I would sit down to watch those, and all those different interpretations of the stories were swirling around in my head, old book, new books, and at the same time, my husband and myself were on the move every week between where the plays were happening and our home at the seaside in Devon, in the West Country. And one day, driving down from London through the narrow lanes in Wiltshire, quite near, as it happened, to Wolf Hall itself, which, believe it or not, is a real place, we had to stop and let a convoy of trailers go by. And on they rumbled, impassable and implacable, like an army moving to the front, while we sat in our car between the hedgerows and speculated on what could be happening on such a scale, in such a sleepy rural spot. And all in a moment, a realization struck me. It was me. I had done it. What I was seeing was the TV production changing location from the site of one manor house to the next. Something had happened to me that most people never experience. I had caused major traffic congestion just by the power of my imagination. By the time the plays left Stratford, I'd become so much a part of the scene there that later the company recruited me as one of its governors. And those days working on the plays were unique in my experience. They were a great refreshment to the spirit, and they threw up many special moments, as does the writing process itself. There are certain instances where a realization is born, a pattern is seen, when a phrase or image appears seemingly from nowhere, and you are, as it were, reborn. You are astonished, you're made new. Those moments may be far between, but in the course of every book, they're a handful. and they're worth waiting for. And this, today, being here with you, is a special moment of another sort. You've brought me thousands of miles to honor me face to face, and I am very much aware of the privilege. I'm conscious that I'm joining a distinguished list of authors who have previously received this award, all of them internationally famous, all of them established in their craft, and some of them among my own guides and inspirations. So I must, before I go further, express my gratitude to the selection committee and to the library and to this wonderful lady whom I've already learned to call just Peggy, and to the organisers who've worked so hard, and not forgetting the people who have served us so deftly and professionally this evening. You see, despite the account I've given you of my stage and screen life, I, like most authors, spend the greater part of my life alone, staring at paper or screen, talking to people that only I can see, trying to put flesh on the bones. I live in a tiny seaside town in the southwest of England. For the last 2 years almost, I've avoided London, I've spurned company, I've concentrated my life down to the routine that serves a book, which is certainly the most demanding I've ever written, which is now almost finished. And the result is, most days, I see nobody except the dead who fill up my imagination. And so when I get home next week and return to my desk, I shall think, oh, this is a dream. This is a city, I know, that takes the arts seriously, takes public benevolence as a duty, that has the imagination to nourish a new generation of readers. And this prize, so generously endowed, is part of a greater endeavour and a greater generosity and a commitment to the future. I'm a writer who was educated from the public purse and created by public libraries. My family did not have an educated background. I was the first in my family to stay at school beyond the age of 16. I was able to go to university. But it was the public library that educated me and created me, and that spurred my ambition. When I got out of university, that's when I started writing. I didn't know anyone who was a writer or anyone who was in publishing, but I had seen those books on the shelves of the public library, and my ambition was to have a book there accompanying them. And my career went in 3 phases, beginning with a 12-year apprenticeship to myself, during which I published almost nothing. But simply devoted myself to one long, complex project, my novel, A Place of Greater Safety, about the French Revolution. Now, at the end of that long period, it was a very bad time for the historical novel. It was very unfashionable. No one had the remotest idea what I was trying to do. And I struggled even to get my work read, let alone published. So I had to leave aside that first book and start another. And I made up my mind that this book, the new one, would be as different as possible. It would be short, it would be contemporary, it would be funny. And how that new book was called every day is Mother's Day. And it brought about a change in my fortunes because, and you do need a bit of luck, I managed to get it on the right desk at the right time. And after that, the second phase of my career began. And I published a number of novels, short stories, a memoir, including the book that had earlier been rejected. So then I worked very hard over 25 years, and I established a small but knowledgeable readership. I got a few books into translation, but I earned my living mainly as a reviewer, critic, columnist, because I didn't sell in big enough numbers to make a living from fiction. And what I really craved during that middle phase was time and freedom. I wanted to be able to concentrate on my own individual, my original work. And then, with the publication of Wolf Hall in 2009, my working life changed. The book began to sell in healthy numbers, even before it went on to win the Man Booker Prize. And in Britain, it also won the Walter Scott Memorial Prize for Historical Fiction, and here in the US, the National Book Critics Circle Award. And then came the sequel, which won another Man Booker and the Costa Book Prize. And of course, put like that, it sounds simplicity itself, as if all I do is put on a fancy frock and just roll from prize giving to prize giving. But actually, between those two books, 2009 and 2012, I had major surgery, and I had 1 or 2 days when I thought I was going to die. But, you know, I was writing a trilogy. I had a project to finish. And what kept me going and got me back to my desk was the huge boost to my confidence that those prizes gave me. Because they created an expectation in an army of readers, which it was my job to fulfill. And I'm now close, as I've said, to finishing the last book in the trilogy, The Mirror and the Light. Then it will be time for phase 4. Because prizes are about rewarding achievement, but they're also, in my view, about encouragement to further work. And so I think it's fair to tell you what comes next. But I do speak hesitantly because I am full of ideas, but I don't know the order in which I'll be able to carry them through. And such is the nature of the trade that some of these plans may become quite different plans as projects evolve. Well, the TV people are waiting for me to finish The Mirror and the Light. They're ready to go. And I've made an appointment in the new year with the producer who has the rights to a stage play. So, I beg your pardon, I hope to get a new stage play off the ground before the ink is dry on the novel. That's the way to do it, I think. And I have a couple of short stories on file, quite substantial ones, half completed, which need some attention. They may or may not work out, but they're worth the commitment. Now, I also have it in my mind that my short story, The Assassination of Margaret Thatcher, might make a stage play. And I do have an idea about how to do that. In fact, I have a box full of bits of dialogue and sketched out scenes. And then after dinner, I've been thinking about a short non-fiction book about what we think we're doing when we write historical fiction. And I have a half-completed novel in the filing cabinet. I have my doubts about it, but again, it may be worth the time and the headspace. I hope I will be able to go on speaking to an international audience, and that some of these ideas will resonate and find form and reach you here from my desk. Ladies and gentlemen, the arts connect us across continents, across oceans, across time. Literature really matters. It develops our empathy as well as our understanding of the world. The appetite for stories never goes away, and in fact, it increases as new media are born. Because no matter how far removed they are from pen and paper, they are still driven by stories. We are all the source of stories. We know thousands. But it's the solitary person in the room who devotes her time to fixing them on the page, getting them out there, putting the stories into circulation. She may need huge patience, as I did, before her right to tell stories is recognized. There are no overnight successes, despite what the papers and TV sometimes say. You prepare all your life to write a book, though you may not know it. No one goes into my trade for money, because there are easier and surer ways of making it. And no one does it for the glamour, because there's none of it in an ordinary working day. You do it, I think, out of curiosity, to see where it will take you. And every day is a fresh beginning. I'm always looking to push out the frontiers of what I can do. And for that, I need faith in myself and for other people to have faith in me. And just at this moment, I need what you have given me. A chance to raise my eyes from my desk, reconnect with readers, and take satisfaction in knowing that I've been able not just to block up the country lanes of England with traffic, but to reach out to a wider horizon. Thank you.